I Want to Jump Like Dee Dee, with me, Giles Sibbald, is the music podcast that does music a bit differently. I'm talking to some incredible musicians, DJs and producers about how they use an experimental mindset to fuel their own creativity, pursue new challenges, overcome fears, bounce back from mistakes. I'm really excited to talk to my guest today for lots of reasons. I've used the phrase in the past community builder before, and it's such an important thing. And my guest is really, for me, building communities based on shared values, and I'm sort of so behind this ethos. I'm going to go through some things that that I'm aware that she's doing, although I'm pretty sure that my research has come up short again, and there's other things that she's doing, but here goes anyway. So first of all, she plays bass in Big Joanie, who need no introduction, and she also plays guitar in Charmpit. She plays synths, and in fact, she won the Barbican Moog competition during lockdown with a track called Remedy. She's a member of the team behind Decolonise Fest, which is a music festival organised by and for punks of colour. She's a board member of the Good Night Out campaign, which is a campaign to create safe nights out that are free from sexual harassment and violence. And she's a board member at she's a volunteer at Girls Rock London, which offers music programmes, development and support for young and adult women, trans and non-binary people. And finally, but no means least, she's also a DJ as well. So it's a complete honour to welcome Estella Adeyeri to the show. Estella, hi.
Hi, thanks for having me.
That's all right. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So how did the start with the DJ thing? How did the DJ thing go the other night? That was at the Victoria in Dalston, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really fun. That was my first time solo DJing. Although I had a lot of help actually from Paul.
Yeah.
Scared to dance as well. So it was him who'd invited us to come down. And it was really fun. I think harder than I expected to read the room. Yeah.
Right.
You want everyone to enjoy what you're playing. You can't just choose everything that I like, which I learned quickly. So try to read the room a bit.
That'd definitely be my feeling if I was doing it. I'd be like, right, I'm just going to have all the stuff that I like on now, sort of stop everybody else.
Yeah. But it was really fun. I'll definitely do it again.
Yeah. So that was like your first solo one then? Oh, wow.
Yeah, Big Joanie did a DJ set in Newcastle, I think in 2019.
Yeah.
It was really fun. But I think both Shadeen and Steph have done quite a bit of DJing in the past. Shadeen especially doing different nights and stuff. So they knew how to use all the CDJs and stuff like that, whereas it was a bit new to me. But I feel like now I'm an expert.
You've done it. You've done it all. That's it.
Yeah, I've mastered it now.
So, did I get the sort of the full list of what you're doing? Is that I'm guessing there's probably other stuff that you're involved with.
No, it sounded quite comprehensive, quite a long list when you put it all together like that. So.
It's loads, isn't it? That's like a lot of things to that you're involved with. I mean, that's I guess people are kind of shaping towards that, doing sort of more and more things. And also I think if I'm not wrong, in the past you've done sort of live sound engineering as well. So, kind of sort of music and in either kind of performing or being involved in different aspects of music, and with some of the programs that you're doing, bringing music to people as well. Yeah. It's kind of like almost that's just a real core part of you.
Yeah, I think the live sound stuff came about definitely through the opportunity at DIY Space for London. So I'm from London, but have been living in York after uni, and that's where I started playing in bands and stuff like that. Yeah. But when I was moving back in 2015, DIY Space was just opening up at the same time.
Yeah.
So I started going there, and I'd seen that they were offering to train people in sound engineering. You could come and volunteer with the collective and learn from other people who knew how to do it. And I wanted to do it because at the time, I just started playing in my band Dirty Girl, which was a Riot Girl band where I played drums, and my other friends sort of wrote the songs and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'd noticed how differently we'd be treated in sound checks and stuff compared to when I was playing in bands with men and when we'd turn up for sound check and stuff. And I thought it would be really useful to be able to like understand how to
Yeah.
do it, so that in the future, like I would know what to ask for at sound check, and also I wouldn't be able to be patronized or spoken
Yeah.
down to, because like I'd already know what to expect.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
When how did this, you know, sort of going back to when you were a kid, you know, how did this sort of, you know, interest in music come about? I mean, what were your you know, kind of formative influences? You know, I guess it was York. You moved from London back to York.
Yeah, like yeah, so I was born in London and stuff, and my parents were always like quite into music.
Yeah.
Especially my dad, he always had loads of records and old
Mm,
tapes from Nigeria and stuff.
mm,
And I think he used to like play parties and like DJ when he was back in
yeah.
Nigeria as well. And then like my sister, my like middle sister, played drums when
Yeah.
she was like 16, so I'd have been about 8. And she also kind of took up bass at the same time as I started learning guitar when I was 13.
Yeah.
And she'd been in bands at uni and stuff, so
Right.
it didn't seem like something I couldn't do, because I already knew someone like, you
Mm,
know, in my family who was doing those things. And
yeah.
she kind of introduced me to alternative music and things like that, just like on the radio and on like music TV and stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah.
just started getting really into it, and like, you know, buying Kerrang as a teenager and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you kind of like at school? Did you learn as well? Were you sort of like involved in, you know, kind of, you know, the music life at school as you were kind of growing up? Was
I
that
had
sort
a
of part
I
of
had a
it?
few guitar lessons when I was like 13 through
Mm,
school, and that maybe lasted for about a year, and then
yeah.
I was just teaching myself through tabs and things like that, and playing more of the music I actually wanted to play, because I didn't really
Yeah.
like the more structured stuff. And I remember
Mm,
my teacher wanted me to play like classical guitar, and like there was this guitar group, and it wasn't really my thing. So
wasn't your thing.
yeah, but yeah, we had like music lessons and stuff at school as well. Did it for GCSE. So.
I did like when I was a kid. I mean, I kind of learned. I did that sort of structured sort of environment, and I don't know. I mean, in a way, like because I sort of since then I've started, you know, sort of playing drums, and I wonder sometimes if there's like a sort of part of me that, you know, because you've had because I've been through sort of structured training, you know, of, you know, learning the theory as well and all that kind of stuff. If it almost in a way just inhibits you from, you know, because you got like a framework of rules that you
Mm.
almost kind of live by, and in some way it sort of stops you from kind of breaking out of that because you think, oh no, I need to do it this way.
Yeah, sometimes I do find that it's quite hard, like because when I was really little, I did piano for a bit as well, so I have like
Mm,
some understanding of like theory, and so yeah, sometimes it's hard to break out of like more standard, even like rhythmic structures, or like
mm,
tonally what you're used to hearing, and doing something different. And I think one of the things I liked about like alternative music and guitar music was the fact that there were a lot of self-taught musicians,
yeah,
that
totally.
I could listen to, who weren't following these like rigid structures and were
Yeah.
doing other things. And it was sort of like the first time I'd seen that you could do that, because playing piano, and I'd also played clarinet from like year 6 to maybe, I don't know, year 8 or 9 or something.
Okay.
And so that was always like, you know, getting my set pieces or
Yeah.
things like that. It wasn't, I didn't really get anything, have anything that was kind of like experimental with that or different.
Mm,
Maybe if I'd stuck with them for longer, but yeah, it was more with like guitar music that I saw a bit more like yeah, moving away from sticking to those boundaries and
yeah.
stuff. And it's a thing I liked about drumming as well when I was teaching myself, because it seems like there were just so many different styles, and there was no
Mm,
one right way to play drums.
mm,
So that was one thing I really liked about it.
yeah. Yeah. And the you know, as you were kind of, you know, learning and sort of teaching yourself things. I mean, were you kind of like in a um you know, with a kind of group of like-minded individuals that sort of supported you with that, you know, to, you know, all the sort of the frustrations that you have of, you know, like, oh, I can't do this and blah blah blah. Did you have like a good kind of network around you too?
I think, yeah, when I started like actually playing in bands and stuff,
Mm.
locally in York, I had a really good support network because the music community there is like generally really supportive and
Yeah.
encouraging. So like, yeah, when my first band started, Junk, like we literally had been a band for like a week before our first gig, and
Yeah.
I was the only one in that band who hadn't really played like proper gigs before, like the other boys had been in a band
Yeah.
called like the Federals back in the day, and they'd done things like I think they played
Mm.
like an intro stage at Glasgow and things like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But like, yeah, I was never made to feel like it was something I couldn't or shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, so lots of other people in local bands were really encouraging or would like lend me gear and stuff. And
Mm.
yeah, would seemingly wanted to see me doing well and
Yeah.
for the band to get opportunities. So that was really nice.
I sort of wonder, you know, that I remember like talking to somebody in one of the earlier episodes about you know, the importance of kind of environment, and she lived in New York and said, you know, like New York became the fifth member of my band. It's almost like, you know, that the energy that a sort of place gives off, you know, whatever energy that might be, you know, just has a real kind of impact in, you know, how you kind of create and how you kind of like respond to, you know, to things. And I think, you know, environment is a kind of important part, you know, both the, you know, the physical surroundings plus the people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah, I think I found that with DIY space as well because there's
Mm.
so many people who, you know, would commit a lot of their own free time, often with, you know, no like financial compensation to just making sure that like there was a space running in London that people could put on like whatever they wanted to put on there or
Yeah.
start bands like and be able to play things like first timers and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And that seems like a place where you could kind of experiment and be creative and
Mm.
be like really supported by a lot of people kind of on a similar wavelength to you.
Yeah.
So I think that venue was really like valuable to our like community.
Mm.
And yeah, it's really sad that we don't have that space anymore because I don't think I'd experienced something like that in London
Mm.
before.
Are there, do you find that there are more places like that that have come up since?
Um, I'm not sure if it's like exactly the same kind of structure, like, you know, cooperatively run
Yeah.
DIY venue. There are other places where, like, you know, I do sort of get a good vibe from there and places that have been recommended to me. I don't live that far from New River
Mm.
Studios, and
Okay. Yeah.
they always seem to have like as near a vibe to like what I felt like at DIY Space, but in
Yeah.
London. So
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that's going to be the next project then.
yeah, not
There's a,
me.
you haven't got enough on the go.
Too tired now. I'll support it though. I'll donate.
Yeah. Somebody else can start that off. I'll be there.
Yeah,
I'll be there.
yeah. So
How do you,
for DIY Space, I had a lot more energy.
what's the thing? I mean, aside from the sort of the physical energy, I mean, the kind of the mental energy it sort of takes to, you know, sort of set up things is quite, I mean, can't be underestimated really. You know,
Yeah.
and then you've got a lot of things that are on the go. I mean, how's sort of Decolonise going? I mean, that obviously last year that it couldn't take place.
Yeah, and I'd taken a little step back this summer as well from Decolonise just for like personal stuff.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
this year, because obviously we still spent a lot of it in lockdown. I know the team had focused a lot on training like internally in the collective just to make
Mm.
sure that we can be a sustainable
Mm.
sort of like, even though we're DIY, we still want to be a sustainable kind of like venture. We want
Yeah.
Decolonise Fest to be something that happens annually,
Mm.
and we don't want to experience things like burnout, which can happen, you
Yeah.
know, from trying to organize things on a big scale like this. But so yeah, if we still can't do like an in-person festival this year, which seems likely, we're still definitely working towards being able to put on a festival for 2022.
Yeah.
And also because we had like the Arts Council funding last year to do Decolonise Fest online,
Mm.
and we can now like think more about doing our streaming events and just like thinking about the opportunities that gave to us as well, because it meant we could organize with other like people of color in alternative and punk scenes like across the world. And it meant our events were more accessible, the fact that they were online and stuff. So we just want to think about how we can still build that in to the festival going forward.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of mentioned at the start, you know, that you know, to me, it seems like you everything that you do is kind of like aligned with your values, you know, sort of what you sort of believe in. This may sound a kind of like, say, like a daft question or an obvious question, but I think a lot of people don't do this. You know, I'm thinking people who are perhaps in sort of paid jobs. But how important is it to you to be doing things that, you know, do align with your values? What does it give you?
I think, especially with things, say like volunteering for Girls Rock London, for example, like the music charity. I think for that, the impetus behind it was knowing like how those kind of opportunities have like made me feel or have opened me up to things in my life that I really enjoy or appreciate. And like knowing, just like knowing the big impacts that can have going forward. I think it feels important to me to be able to give other people those same opportunities, because like like a lot of Girls Rock is, and I've said it before in other places, but the founders kind of have always said that a reason for starting Girls Rock and tutoring like young people aged 11 to 16 is because like for young women in particular, like that's when their self-esteem is at its lowest point, like during those very formative years. And like, you know, having like your self-esteem damaged at that time can have such a negative impact on the rest of your life. So a part of Girls Rock is being like, well, what can we do to intervene to give people like a positive impact at that very formative time, build their self-esteem, and how will that you know, how will that then have a positive impact on the rest of their life? And like the results seem to have been that it's done really well for a lot of people. And I think just like knowing what it was like having been in those same shoes and stuff, it just seems kind of like it makes sense to me to want other people to be able to have like the same opportunities, and like it's something I enjoy doing, and like feel good seeing other people like, you know, maybe like getting a kick out of learning their instrument or things like that.
I completely agree. I think you know, it's a fantastic movement to, you know, to give that support. And I say, you know, I think that, you know, a lot of people perhaps don't do that. I mean, you know, some people don't have the chance to do that as well.
That's true.
But I think you know, where you do, you know, I think it, I mean, just from a sort of personal point of view, it you know, it helps you kind of put your own energy into it, I guess, you know, kind of more sort of wholeheartedly, because it's something that you really, you know, kind of believe in, not just something you like, something you sort of actually believe in. And I think that's kind of so important, you know, to have that. And because people, I guess, you know, the people that you're interacting with, if they know that your heart's not in something, if you don't sort of fully believe, I mean, they pick up on it, you know. It's
you can pick up when it's not authentic, I think.
Totally, yeah. And no, so and I totally agree with you on the sort of formative influences. I remember I was talking to she's a pediatrician in the US, Dr. Laura Jana, and she is, I mean, really of the opinion that, you know, the earlier that you start to talk to kids about, you know, things like emotional intelligence and, you know, you kind of like own sort of self-acceptance, the earlier you start, the more impact that you're going to have. And I think that's been, it's kind of lacking a lot in perhaps in education, I feel. You know, so I think, you know, for your sort of age group, the age group that you're looking at, you know, to make those kind of interventions, you know, through music, you know, people, you know, music is kind of like this sort of great leveler, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, because I've had so many opportunities that I wouldn't have had through music, like
Yeah,
especially for things like traveling quite
yeah,
regularly, obviously pre-COVID and stuff. But
yeah,
like, I don't think I would have had that opportunity if I wasn't
mm,
playing in bands. And like, you know, you can do that as a DIY band on a
mm,
budget sometimes as well. You know, like we teamed up with other bands and got a van and
mm,
just gone and had a great time. And I think that's, like you said, it is a leveler and it is important. And I think
yeah,
as well, like one thing that Girls' been concerned about is like, you know, cuts to things like music and the arts, especially in mainstream
yeah,
education. And so
yeah,
it's really important to us that we always like can offer like free places at our camps as well.
totally,
Like we do a lot of funding applications and fundraisers to
yeah,
make sure that like a significant proportion of the places, often it's more than 50% of the places, have been allocated for free to
yeah.
young people, and try and, you know, target the people it would benefit the most.
Mm. I guess that's the thing as well. I mean, it's not, you know, to put on the programs and to, you know, to have the, you know, development support. I mean, there's just like a whole host of stuff that needs to go on for that to happen. It's not just suddenly these programs appear.
Mm,
You know, there's a whole load of work that needs to kind of go into it and get the right people involved as well.
definitely, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I remember like with music itself, sort of a charity that I was involved with, Nordhoff Robbins, and seeing the just, I mean, just talk about like the impact of music on some of their clients that were either sort of, you know, sort of been in physical accidents, or, you know, sort of you know, had other conditions, you know, sort of mental conditions, and the impact that these sort of music therapy sessions, for example, just kind of gave was incredible. You know, real, you know, kind of life changing things that you can do and you can kind of bring to people. It must be like a kind of great feeling, you know, you know, just delivering that as well, and then, you know, for you guys, sort of seeing the, you know, the change that happens and how you know, you know, the people that sort of come along to your sessions develop themselves.
Yeah, it's been really cool to see. Like, so the next Girls Rock Camp is actually next week for us,
Yeah.
and it's the first sort of in-person one we've done
Mm.
since COVID. That's a bit scaled down
Yeah.
to usual, so we can like distance and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, I mean, we have past participants who like have kept in touch with us to keep us,
Mm.
you know, let us know about their progress after, or
Yeah.
like parents will and carers sometimes get in touch to say like, you know, months down the line they'll be like, oh, we can still see the change in,
Mm.
um, you know, this person, from how they're like much more confident, or whether it's,
Yeah.
you know, they're expressing themselves like a bit more yeah, like comfortably,
Mm.
or some people like go on to decide they want to study music and stuff off the back of coming to camp, and then
Mm.
they go off and do that. um but yeah, and like we also have some young people who are now coming back to volunteer with us as well, which is really nice. And
Yeah.
you know, I can put it on their like CVs or
Yeah.
UCAS or whatever. But like it's good to see that like it is making like a positive impact, because
Mm.
I think as well there's like, it can be quite nice to have like older people in your life who aren't just like your parents or your carer. Like
Yeah.
sometimes you know, it's hard to tell your mum or whatever exactly what's going on when you're a teenager, but you might open up, sometimes they open up to their own peers, like because they're surrounded by people their age with similar things going on, or they might open up to one of us, and we've got obviously like safeguarding and like well-being stuff in place as well, so we can help with anything that they might want to share with us. But and we do a lot of workshops throughout the week on, you know, things like mental health, or workshops about like gender and sexuality as well, and things like that. So it's just kind of creating that space really for people to kind of be whoever they want to be.
What do you sort of personally learn from you know, who comes along to these sort of programs and sessions?
I think I learned that I think adults often like underestimate young people in general in terms of like how much they understand of the world going around them, and I guess like we've seen that gap between you know, young people Gen Z, who've grown up with permanent access to the internet and knowledge, and just how much they seem to know, and just like constantly impressed with how tuned in they are to kind of like social issues and interpersonal issues as well. But yeah, also just like the you know, just listening to a young person can be invaluable for them, like just giving them the space to like actually be heard can make such a big difference. Or like, you know, say someone isn't in a space where like with their home life, for example, maybe they don't get a lot of like one-to-one attention for whatever reason, or things like that. Just a bit of like positive reinforcement and stuff, or encouragement and support, like just a little bit can go quite a long way. So I think that's what I've learned. But yeah, I always learn something new from the young people themselves as well. It's usually just that I guess I'm getting older and out of touch. So they know a lot more than me. They know so many.
I won't make any comments about my own age, but there you go.
Yeah.
But it's probably sort of this what I'm going to say next probably directed at me. I mean, do you think that we like kind of society in general, I mean, would benefit from more, you know, kind of like sort of, you just take age for example, more kind of like empathy and understanding of the different lived experiences across age groups, you know, that you know, older people can learn from younger people and vice versa too.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think, I don't know if it's necessarily the case, but I feel like it's not maybe as valued to have like friendships across like age groups, or generations. Whereas like, I feel like now I do have friends who might be 10, 20, 30, maybe 40 years older than me. And like, I don't know why like that's not seen as like the norm necessarily, but so like, yeah, one of the other things that I like about Girls Rock is that our adult camp has no upper age limit, so it's just anyone 18 and over. And when we've had people apply in their like 50s and 60s, sometimes they have said like they've come from a time where they didn't feel as confident to just like pick up a guitar and start a band, and it was kind of explicitly sort of told that that wasn't for them at that time and stuff. And they've come and said, well, I've wanted to do this like for 30 years, and if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. And I've been really appreciative of like having somewhere to go and you know, just give it a try, even if they then don't continue to be in a band. For some people, like I know one person who continued by doing like spoken word performances, or just things like that. Still felt like empowered from having that time. And yeah, I just think like it is annoying. Like I definitely see, having entered my 30s, the amount of things that are like targeted for people like under 30, and it's like, well, you don't just stop being interested in learning or doing new things when you like hit 30. Like as if you're supposed to just keel over and die. Like, I don't understand. Like, you still have like a social life. So, and yeah, there's still obviously like the ageism in society is like gendered as well. So there's that.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it kind of makes no sense. I know it just feels like everything that you're told when you're younger, which is like, like go to uni and get your career and then get your house, and like you have these 25-year-olds being like, oh, I haven't like sorted my life out yet. It's like, well, you've lived like a quarter of it, so like why are you stressed out? So
it's unbelievable, isn't it?
yeah, so I feel like, you know, we shouldn't be expecting people to not want to do adventurous things because of like an arbitrary kind of time limit or an arbitrary age thing.
Totally.
Yeah, and
it's funny.
That's not how my life feels.
I did some studying on this a few years ago about you know, how we're basically sort of living longer lives now. You know, it's like somebody born today can expect to live to 100. You know, in the kind of like sort of in the Western world, say at least. And you know, if you think about that, you know that old sort of tradition of, you know, kind of go to school, work, and retire is gone. I mean, it's gone. You know, and I think, you know, there are more and more people who are working, you know, for shorter periods of time, then taking time out and doing different things. And when you mentioned that you have some older women that sort of come to, you know, sort of girls rock, and I think that's great, and it's perhaps sort of symptomatic of people living and working longer. You can't physically sort of sustain the, you know, in the old sort of tradition of, you know, you're looking at like working life of sort of over 40, approaching 50 years now.
Wow.
I mean, that's like really scary.
Yeah.
You know,
like,
so
what, like 20 days holiday at your corporate job or
yeah,
something?
you know, I mean, there's no way that you can, well, there's no way you could do it anyway, but
yeah.
I mean, just the mental and sort of physical strain of doing that, you know, depending on what kind of line you work you're in. And I think it's totally understandable that people will want to do different things and learn about them that they perhaps hadn't had a chance to do before, but are still interested in them.
And I think that happened maybe for a lot of people in COVID who, you know, maybe had the opportunity to work from home for the first time or work remotely. I mean, you know, obviously it's not possible for everyone depending what their roles are and stuff. But like for some people, they, you know, they saw that like, oh, what they were doing before was like doing this like awful commute twice a day. And like having so little time to yourself in a day because like so much of it is given over to work, just like wasn't actually really like suiting them that well, or like isn't the thing that they want from life when you know, things are a bit more opened up and stuff. So, and yeah, because I always said I thought like the pandemic was literally going to be like the fall of capitalism, because I was like, well, it doesn't, like capitalism doesn't work when there's a global pandemic. But it didn't happen, so I don't know.
Well, I felt the same as you. I kind of like I'd like sort of real hopes that this was going to be. You know, I kind of thought that with the sort of the extremism that was polarizing. I mean, completely sort of polarizing us, and still is, that it almost like needed. It felt like this kind of like big reset, like something massive to happen for us to, the human race, to kind of realize what was going on. And I thought when COVID came along, I thought, yes, this must be it.
Yeah.
And it kind of wasn't, because it seems sort of like people going back to like this same and worse behaviors.
It was just really weird, because I just felt like early in the pandemic, I was like, I don't understand why I'm working when like there's actually a global pandemic like tearing through the world, and this work seems kind of inconsequential.
Totally.
In the face of that, and yet I'm still doing it. So
it was.
I don't know, but yeah, it was.
I did think that something was going to change, but perhaps you're right. You know, that people will through. You know, so for some people who've been able, like you say, been able to work at home, they will see that you know, there's something else out there rather than being, you know, kind of slave. And again, it's this kind of mindset thing, sort of slave to, you know, this capitalist sort of structure and sort of society that kind of dictates this is what you do, and it's almost like takes your mind away from yourself. You know, it sort of just controls it.
Yeah, and I guess like so many people like do change careers or start their own like
Mm,
you know like a side hustle or a business
yeah,
whatever like much later in life.
yeah,
Like you said, it's not really the same as the like going and getting one job and
yeah,
working your way through up through that and then
yeah.
retiring. Like that seems that just seems like something of a former generation
It
now. I
does.
don't really
Yeah,
know anyone able to do that. But yeah, it's just like a constant kind of um, sort of battle for some
yeah.
stability. I think, especially for people kind of around my age, trying to like
Mm,
exist in London, maybe it's really hard to like have like a decent like living wage here or like be able to
yeah.
afford property and things like that. So
I guess there's
like afford
you
your
said,
rent,
sorry.
to afford your rent or
Oh
whatever.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I wonder, like, with you know, in kind of music, there's a lot more kind of technology, good sort of technology around to. I mean, I've noticed as well. I mean, I'm sure you, if I've noticed, I'm sure you have about um, you know, the ability to create at home, you know, and do things yourself, you know, with technology, and in a way, I wonder if that's you know, taking some of the traditional roles within music, for example, away, like the roles of producers or engineers, for example. Because I was talking to and he's a producer and engineer at Assault and Battery, and and you know, and he was kind of saying about, you know, the some of the some of the technology that's around, but also some of the artists that are coming into the studio are more and more interested in how to do things, you know, the nuts and bolts of it. Whereas previously it could be just like, okay, we just come here to do a job and then we get out. And now it's like much more interested in understanding what's going on.
Yeah, probably like, or at least for me, I think it was, you know, having had that opportunity to go into a studio, record somewhere, been having
Yeah.
that had that taken away
Mm,
in the lockdown, and then to see things like I know definitely Ableton gave like a 90-day free trial to their software,
yeah.
and maybe like Logic did something as well. But like a lot of the companies offered things for free in lockdown,
Mm,
like Moog and maybe Korg had like free kind of apps and stuff as well that you could
yeah.
use. So and so that's kind of what got me interested in learning how to like produce at home because like the
Yeah.
opportunity was there. And I was like, oh, I might as well take this Ableton trial.
Mm,
But and yeah, like the kind of being able to be like self-reliant if you are going to have a situation where yeah maybe you don't have those other people to hand to just
yeah.
do it for you. And I think for me as well, like just having been used to that attitude of like um self-reliance in that way of being like, well, like why should I have to ask someone else to do this if it's something I could potentially learn to
Yeah.
do myself, like, and I know exactly what results that I want, so I might as well do it.
Sort of do it. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's kind of in your mindset. That's how you've kind of grown up and done things. So it's kind of
Yeah,
that's
because
the
I
way
guess it's
that you operate.
cheaper as well than
Yeah.
like, I don't know how much a producer costs or
Yeah.
things like that. And then yeah, you don't have like someone else's vision maybe like
Yeah.
interfering with yours. Like sometimes it's good. Like I quite like. I mean, I like working collaboratively. That's why I like
Mm,
being in bands, and I like working with other people. But like
yeah.
sometimes you might just want to make something and make it
Yeah.
completely within your own vision as well. And for me, that was
Mm,
actually quite a good challenge to like make solo music because it's not something I really do.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it felt quite good to be able to do something that was totally mine.
Yeah. I'm glad you. If we can come back to the solo stuff in a second, I'm glad you mentioned collaborations What are the what do they give you? You know, how you know what do you really enjoy about the collaborations that you're doing?
I think I just find it like quite a social way to do music, and it's quite
Mm,
fun. It's always interesting to see how other people like work musically, or like how
mm,
they would structure things.
mm.
Like in Big Joanie, like Steph writes songs differently to how I would write them. So
Got you.
that's quite interesting for me, because
Mm,
she'll be like, oh, I wasn't expecting her to go there, or like,
mm.
oh, like I would never have picked out this melody and stuff.
Yeah,
Um, because yeah, Steph actually doesn't have a music theory background as well, so she will approach things differently to how
yeah.
I might be like, oh, but this isn't all in the same key or whatever.
Got you.
And like you
Yeah.
said about sort of being encumbered, I think, unencumbered, whatever, but like sort of,
Unencumbered.
yeah, like held in
Yeah,
by
yeah,
that sort of idea.
yeah.
And it's always, I always really enjoy trying to like make something that fits with someone else's
Mm,
kind of ideas. So that's what I quite liked about like playing bass in Big Joanie, and when I used to play in Witching Waves as well,
mm,
because
mm.
like similarly, Mark and Emma would write completely differently to how maybe I would write,
Yeah.
but we would still work really well as a unit.
Mm,
And and yes, for Charmpit as well, like I'd just never played lead guitar in a band before.
yeah.
So that was quite a cool challenge, and I knew I already liked the music and stuff, and
Mm,
I think they have a really fun way of writing. So yeah, it's just like cool to get involved and stuff. And also I
mm.
practice more if I have to play with other people, because it's like, oh, I don't want to look like crap in front of these other people. So I'll do the practice. Whereas if it's just me, I'll like just watch Netflix or something. So yeah, secretly quite lazy, even though I do loads of things.
Secretly quite wishing that Netflix would just sort of appear, and it's like, oh,
Yeah, yeah.
I've got to
I
go
do
now.
actually watch a lot of Netflix despite my schedule.
I mean, with some of the people that you work with, I mean, not necessarily sort of, you know, Shadeen and Steph in sort of Big Johnny, and maybe perhaps in Charmpit, but some of the other collaborations that you do where perhaps you don't know the people as well. I mean, how you know, obviously with collaborations, whatever form collaborations take, there's a lot of different personalities and different ways to approach things, and you know, different things that push people's buttons, or you know, kind of flip the triggers and things like that. I mean, how do you sort of deal with those? I mean,
Yeah, I don't know, because I've never had like a big problem working with someone before. Like I just joined an artist called Gloria for
mm,
a music residency up at the Sage in Gateshead,
mm,
because she's like working on it's like a solo EP that she's done, and she wants to bring it to the stage.
yeah,
And she brought along another artist called Princess with her, and like that was last week, and we'd only met in person on that Monday going up on the train together. Like I'd only
mm,
spoken to Gloria over Zoom and stuff. And Princess had played like Decolonise Fest online
yeah,
last year, but we'd never met.
mm,
So obviously it would have been really bad if we didn't get on with each other.
yeah,
But like it all worked out really well in the end. And like, yeah, like, because I knew that I liked Gloria's music. And again, it's completely different to, I think, how I'd write. There's a lot of electronic stuff in there as well.
mm,
Um, and it's like a really cool like blend of genres. So it was quite challenging to um, sort of like put my style of guitar to it.
yeah,
And then Princess also has like her own style of guitar as well.
mm,
And we have two guitars on some of the tracks. But it was more like, I don't know, like just trying to like figure a puzzle out or something like
mm,
that, rather
mm,
than something difficulty. But I guess I've been quite lucky to usually work with people where our personalities like don't clash, and like
yeah,
I think I'm quite chilled out most of the time as well. So
yeah,
that
yeah.
probably helps really.
That definitely helps. Yeah, I always struggled with because my sort of like personality kind of default, I suppose, is like I'm kind of quite introverted,
Mhm.
and I sometimes, I don't want to say struggle, but I find like with extroverts, like real kind of like extroverts who perhaps talk over, and you know, it's like always like kind of their point of view. My kind of reaction to that is to kind of back away, you know. And I often wonder that, in those sort of situations, how many sort of good ideas aren't allowed to go out to be put over, you know, because the space isn't there, the safe space for, you know, kind of interest. I guess that goes, you know, for lots of different types of people, you know, but that they need the right environment to, you know, to kind of flourish.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's something I think we're just thinking about it for girls' work actually. Like,
Mm,
should the scenario come up with ways to make sure that like everyone's ideas can get heard
yeah,
in a room? Because in that scenario, it is quite different because people have like a week to write a song with their band and stuff.
yeah,
And especially with young people, usually it's like, well, everyone's got like loads of ideas, and
yeah,
so it's like how to make sure everyone's heard and that
mm,
there's like some consensus or something. But yeah, I do think like I feel like there's a lot more value to, well, I guess depending on the project, but like I've always felt like it's worth like hearing everyone out and
yeah,
maybe trying their ideas or seeing even how you can fuse like a couple or sometimes
mm,
multiple ideas together, or
mm, mm,
um, even if it doesn't, the finished project, like the finished product isn't exactly like how the idea started, but
yeah,
I think it's definitely worth hearing people out. And sometimes I would not push, but like just try and make sure that like if there's like a more introverted person,
yeah,
that if they have an idea, they feel like they can share it, even if that's maybe like one to one before bringing it to an entire group
exactly,
or
yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
But,
Which I think is,
yeah, I guess it is difficult in for some
yeah.
bands in that way.
I guess I mean, I think that's a good idea of how to do it, is to, you know, approach them sort of beforehand. For example,
Mm.
it could be, you know, any different sort of number of personality types and,
Yeah,
you know, kind of situations, I guess, that people sort of find themselves in. You know, it's having that, you know, almost kind of like empathy for what the other person or the other people in the room are kind of going through or feeling,
mm.
you know, and how to get the best out of them. When you like with your so I mean you mentioned about your kind of solo stuff. So let's talk about the Barbican comp
Oh
last
yeah,
year, when you kind of created Remedy.
yeah.
What was the kind of background, and how did that all go?
So yeah, that's like the second song I'd made on Ableton.
Mm,
And yeah, someone had just like sent me that the competition was going on. Was like, oh, you should do this, and I was like, oh yeah, all right then, because I'd tried making a song first for a friend's like art collaboration.
mm,
So yeah, that had been my first go, and I was learning to use this synthesizer as well, which was a Moog one.
yeah,
It's a Moog Sub 30 for anyone who cares about that stuff. But I quite liked it, but it was just borrowed. Didn't get to keep it. But like, so yeah, I wrote that because, and it was just meant to be about like using like dancing sort of like on your own to like make yourself feel better and stuff.
yeah, yeah,
And yeah, like, and they'd also said in the competition, like, they wanted to know like who your favorite synth artist was, or could you like sort of base it on the style of like a synth artist you liked or something like that. So I
mm,
based it on Basement Jacks because like I
yeah,
wasn't really sure who else was using a synth, to be honest. And also
mm,
like their music's just so like iconic in that kind of party vibe, like
yeah,
especially you know their earlier stuff. So like that was kind of my influence for the style of the song. I was like, I want to write a song a bit like them,
mm,
and I wanted it to be fun as well because I didn't want to just like, you know, already in a lockdown. I don't need to be writing like a miserable song. So
yeah,
that's why I kind
yeah.
of
There's
picked
enough
a
of that going on.
feel-good one. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it was really fun. I just had I just used, yeah, like the Ableton Suite free trial, and then my friend Ashani had lent me uh, what's the word, an interface, and I had like a MIDI keyboard at home, and I use that as well. And I think, yeah, I think that's it. And obviously vocals, but yeah, it's all like MIDI instruments on that.
Wow. Is that something you want to do? Did that give you a kind of taste for, creating, sort of synth compositions?
Yeah, like I mean, I've been quite slow about it, but I did think I should probably like put an EP out at some point, or
Yeah.
maybe a single. I think that'd be really fun because
Yeah.
I'm usually like quite a perfectionist, so like I was like quite hesitant to put things
Yeah.
out or share like solo stuff because it would always feel unfinished or like
Right.
maybe not polished enough. But I think if I just like do it, then just get it over and done with. Stop like faffing around it and could be
Just
quite good,
go
really.
for it.
Yeah, because like, what's the worst that can happen, really? Like, maybe someone won't like it, but it's like, that's all right. Like, not everyone has to like it.
I've used this quite a lot, but I just think it's so good. When I spoke to Andrew Fern of Sleaford Mods a couple of months ago, he said, because he puts a load, I don't know, you've probably seen, he puts a load of really experimental stuff out on his
didn't
own.
know that.
Yeah, I'll send you the his Bandcamp link. It's brilliant. I mean, it's going back, from when he was a kid right through to now, and it's just so experimental. And he just said at the end of the day, you can't force people to like you. And it was kind of like as simple as that. For all the kind of doubts that we have, about, because like one of my things has always been, I wonder what they'll think about that, and it like creates this sort of self-doubt almost. And he was just like, do you know what? You can't force people to like you. Just do it.
Exactly, yeah. And like, yeah, like you always just feel so much better for just putting it out there. Like, and you never know who is gonna respond to it positively. Like, I remember Steph had said, and I always like steal this quote of her, but I will credit her. But she's said like, there's always someone who's been waiting their whole life to hear like your song. So you might think like,
wow, yeah,
oh, this isn't perfect, so it's not great, but it might really move somebody else. So like you might as well let go of it and get it out there and see how people respond to it. And as long as you like it as well, I think that's the most important part as well.
That's a really great way to look at it, actually. That's kind of saying that we're all unique, and there will be somebody somewhere that where it kind of resonates. It's a great way to look at it, I think.
She's very wise.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I interviewed her actually for Moon magazine, like the first kind of issue for that as well. Yeah, she was great, really kind of great to talk to her. When you say you're a perfectionist, so how does that, if you're kind of creating your own stuff, you're doing your sort of solo stuff, for example, and something doesn't work or it's not kind of like as you expected, how does that make you feel? When you do you kind of like scrap it? Do you play around with it?
I tend to just keep like kind of chipping away at it until I can get to that finished stage. Like I couldn't leave it like just sort of like all right, because it would like sort of irritate me.
That would trigger you.
Like with Remedy, even the version that won the competition, like I can hear that some of the vocals are like slightly out of time, and like I've never been able to let that go. So now I think I've redone it a bit, and when we've finally managed to correct it a bit, and I don't know if everyone else could hear it, but because I could hear it, it was still quite upsetting. So I was like, well, but at the time I didn't know how to fix it, whereas now I've learned a bit more. I'm like, well, like it's a huge mistake. Should fix that. But I wouldn't put that on like anyone else's music, so it's quite annoying. I'm only a perfectionist with my own things, and I would always tell other people not to be a perfectionist, but I would be a massive perfectionist.
You'd be a massive perfectionist yourself. I guess it's kind of like our nature, isn't it? Sometimes we just sort of focus in on our kind of like imperfections, and it's like, no, that's not quite right, and everybody else thinking, what are you talking about?
So
it's important you get it right in your own mind, isn't it?
I'm aware of it, at least, even if I haven't fixed it yet.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, it's you know, with your kind of creativity and so forth, as you you know, do you find yourself sort of taking and your own creativity either in your solo stuff or whatever you're doing? Do you find yourself taking you know, more risks with what you do? You prepared to kind of like say, well, take a gamble with that, and you know, like we were just saying, then just sort of put it out there.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I've got a friend doing like the mixing for some of the solo stuff I've written.
Yeah.
And so I think, yeah, I'll probably just pop that in Bandcamp at some point. Like, unless someone wants to put it out, but I don't know, I might just do it myself.
Yeah.
And then I think like in terms of like musical creativity, and definitely the experience of like recording an album with Big Joanie like at a studio that had like loads of just like weird instruments in there or things that we hadn't come across before.
Yeah.
Like what sort of really opened all of our minds to how like oh, like the record doesn't have to sound exactly how we play live. Like,
Yeah.
so we definitely, with the second album that we're working on now, we feel like we can be a bit more experimental and not feel sort of encumbered by the fact that it's just three of us and we only have the instruments that we have. We're kind of building other elements in. So that's been good. And yeah, I guess like, I think, yeah, I probably do feel more comfortable taking risks, just knowing that like I said, like usually there's not really anything that bad that can possibly happen. So
yeah.
and you know, you might regret not doing it. Whereas if you try, and even if something doesn't work out, it's like, well, at least you tried and gave it a go and stuff.
I totally agree. I mean, it's easy for me to say, you know, but it kind of feels like a good time to do it, you know, to take chances and to do that experimentation, and you know, with either kind of new sounds and new ways of doing things and bringing in different people. It feels kind of quite exciting to be able to do that, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And like, you know, I don't want to just make an album that sounds exactly like the last one. Like,
yeah,
I want it to be exciting and sort of reflect the experiences we've had since that's come out. Like, since the first one came out, sorry, like playing on bigger stages and also seeing how like other artists have built their stage show over time, like bands like Slater Kinney or Gossip and stuff that obviously started as three pieces, but on stage they have a lot more going on.
Yeah.
But it's still like the band. So
I mean, going back a little bit. I mean, that experience at, you know, talking about, you know, kind of big stages, you know, kind of Brixton Academy. I mean, that must have been just amazing, like an amazing experience.
Yeah, it was really cool, especially like because we all used to go there as kids. Like, I think I saw Deftones there and like at the drive-in and whatnot. So it's like, yeah, really cool to be able to be on that stage and like have my like sisters there and stuff and everything.
Wow.
And yeah, like just to see like how big it is as well. It was a bit daunting the first time, definitely. But we had a really good response, which is like amazing as well. Like to be a support band and like feel that level of support from an audience.
Sure,
So, yeah, and we'll be back there with Idols in
with
January.
Idols.
Yeah.
When's that, in January?
Brixton dates. Yeah. They're
okay.
doing Brixton towards the end of January.
Wow, that'll be brilliant.
Yeah.
I saw Idols at Rebellion. They played Rebellion in Blackpool. When would that would have been? 3 years ago, I think.
Oh wow, yeah. So I haven't seen them live, but I have seen there's a documentary about them that's come out, and I have seen that actually, which was really interesting to hear the sort of backstory and the things that have happened during their time as a band as well. It's like really good to get an insight actually into what they're like.
Yeah. Well, it was a great. I mean, they did about I think like a 40-minute set.
Oh, thank you.
It was great. Yeah, it was really good fun. Really good fun. So that's amazing. Well, Estella, thank you so much for your time. That's been really awesome. Thanks so much for spending the time with us.
Oh, thanks for having me. Let me ramble on.
No, not at all. It's all brilliant. And listen, best of luck with everything that you're involved with. I think it's amazing what you're doing, and obviously in the next thing for sort of Big Joanie, best of luck for like the kind of new recordings, and then the big tours that are coming up as well.
Oh, thanks a lot. Yeah, I think 2022 should be good for us. So
yeah,
we'll keep you posted. Finally get that album out. It's been a long time coming.
Brilliant. All right, Estella, take care anyway. All right, speak soon.
Thanks for listening to the show, and I really hope that you enjoyed it and that you'll tune in for the next episode. In the meantime, it would be really awesome if you could rate and review the show, and also share it with any friends who you think might enjoy it.